Nagbabalik tayo dito sa Kababayan Today at ngayon naman ang ating regular segment kasama si Professor Brandon Reilly for No History, No Self. Let's watch this.
Nearly 30 years ago, this week, Filipinos took to the streets in the most consequential mass demonstration in our lifetimes. Over the course of 4 days, from February 22nd to 25th, 1986, hundreds of thousands of Filipinos from all walks of life took to Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, known as Edsa for short, to bring about the peaceful ouster of dictator Ferdinand Marcos. And they succeeded. What has come to be known as the Edsa Revolution, or People Power Revolution, because it was a genuinely popular struggle to overthrow Marcos, was a foundational event in modern Filipino history. It heralded the restoration of democracy, the drafting of a new constitution in 1986, and the election of the opposition leader and first Filipina head of state, Corazon Aquino. The occasion of its 30th anniversary provides us with a useful opportunity to reflect on how the event has shaped our history ever since. One thing stands out immediately. Democracy has remained alive and well in the Philippines since 1986. In fact, if you consider that the Philippines had previously only had democratic elected government from 1946 to 1972, the period after World War II until Marcos' declaration of martial law, 26 years, the time in which we currently live is the longest period of democracy the Philippines has ever enjoyed. Quite an accomplishment. One indication of our democratic spirit is that there was even something like a sequel to the People Power Revolution in the new millennium. In response to recurrent charges of corruption against then-President Joseph Estrada, and in particular that he had received millions in kickbacks from Wedding, a numbers game that was technically illegal but tacitly allowed, thousands of Filipinos took to the streets to call for his peaceful ouster from January 17th to 20th, 2001. This became called Edsa Dos. And they succeeded, yet again. Although, it must be noted, some have raised doubts about the constitutionality of removing from office a democratically elected president via popular protest rather than through institutional means. Estrada was arrested later that year on corruption charges. His supporters then took to the streets by the hundreds of thousands, beginning in May 2001. The mainstream press referred derisively to this event as quote-unquote poor people power because much of the ousted president's support came from the lower classes. After a week, Philippine police took steps to disperse the crowd by force, which served its intended effect. That event came to be called Edsa Tres, and it had ended. The event of Edsa Tres led many commentators at the time to wonder whether excessive democracy, indeed mob rule, would become the norm in Filipino politics. A decade and a half later, however, we can see that such has not come to pass. 30 years after the Edsa Revolution, the event that started it all, Filipino democracy remains strong. Witness, for instance, the popular backlash that prevented then-President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo from using her declaration of martial law to become a dictator a la Marcos. Democracy in the Philippines, in other words, shows no signs of slowing down.
Our No History, No Self segments are great because you learn about your history. Magbabalik kami here on Kababayan Today.